In the ethereal realm of the Western Third Defense Line, a commander's voice echoed through the magic call, announcing a crucial message by the decree of His Majesty. The fate of the rebellion lay in the hands of this defense line, and the commander conveyed the king's command. If they could endure for a mere 3 days, the rebellion would be quelled, and Roman Dimitry would be dispatched to reinforce the Western Front. The call held an air of urgency, emphasizing the pivotal role the defense line played in the unfolding drama. The focus shifted to the figure of Flora. The commander's proclamation hinted at her earlier prediction, marking her as a noteworthy figure on the Western Front. Flora had emerged as a standout persona after her meeting with Roman Dimitry and her subsequent departure from Lawrence to enroll in the Royal Academy. Flora's journey did not end with her enrollment. Instead, she delved into the intricacies of tactics, evolving into a formidable force. Flora carved her path, becoming the first female staff officer in Cairo. The acceptance of Flora's appointment was not immediate. The decision sparked various opinions, with many questioning the unorthodox choice. However, as Flora demonstrated her strategic prowess and leadership skills, doubts began to dissipate. Her capabilities became increasingly evident, and she earned recognition not merely as a female officer but as a competent and skilled leader. The scene seamlessly transitioned to a meeting within the confines of the Western Third Defense Line, where the head of staff, Baron Noel, addressed a gathering of officers. Baron Noel, a seasoned strategist, painted a pragmatic picture. He declared the impracticality of quelling the rebellion within the stipulated 3 days and urged the officers to brace themselves for a prolonged battle. The air hung heavy with uncertainty as Baron Noel highlighted the logistical challenges, even if the Western forces successfully quelled the rebellion using warp gates. Travel time alone would consume a day or two, making the 3-day deadline seem like an impossible feat. The prospect of failure loomed over the room, casting a shadow on the confidence of the assembled officers. However, amidst the gloom, the voice of reason emerged in the form of Flora. With unwavering confidence, she expressed a dissenting opinion, challenging the prevailing narrative. Flora speculated that Roman Dimitry had set the 3-day deadline, but she confidently asserted that the timeline wouldn't exceed 5 days. Count Vanderberg, the Western Front commander, sought clarification from Flora, prompting her to draw from her direct experiences with Roman. She painted a nuanced portrait of Roman Dimitry, emphasizing his unpredictability and the inadequacy of judging him by common standards. Flora's conviction in her assessment of Roman's character resonated through her words, instilling a sense of cautious optimism within the gathering. Count Vanderberg remained skeptical, questioning the foundation of Flora's judgment. Undeterred, Flora pointed to the external pressures faced by Roman and the looming collapse of Duke Benedict, indicating a sense of urgency that transcended conventional expectations. Kronos, the formidable aggressor, had breached Cairo's western borders, leaving turmoil and uncertainty in its wake. As the citizens of Cairo grappled with the imminent threat, Flora, a seasoned strategist, took charge, revealing a map that meticulously outlined Kronos' attack patterns. It was a grim testament to the ruthless efficiency of their enemy. Flora's eyes scanned the faces of those gathered, her voice steady as she relayed crucial information. She elucidated Kronos' tactics, highlighting their penchant for melee combat upon invasion and the subsequent deployment of war mages for pivotal engagements. It was a pattern they had observed, a pattern that had led them to the precipice of their current predicament. Count Vanderberg, a stalwart leader amongst them, listened intently as Flora continued. With a keen understanding of the enemy's strengths, he voiced concerns about Kronos' possession of mage towers, foreseeing their potential to amplify the mage's power. Flora acknowledged the gravity of the situation, emphasizing the vulnerability of mages during spellcasting. Eliminate the mage variable, Flora urged, her tone resolute. She proposed a strategy wherein Cairo's forces would anticipate the mage's movements and lay traps accordingly. It was a bold plan, but Count Vanderberg balked at its feasibility. How could they possibly discern the precise location of the elusive mages, especially when they could sense mana fluctuations? Flora's response was unwavering. Force their hand, she declared. By orchestrating a grand warrior battle, Cairo could compel Kronos to mobilize their troops, thereby exposing the mages' positions. It was a risky gambit, but one that held the promise of turning the tide in their favor. Count Vanderberg pondered the implications, his mind racing with possibilities. The plan had merit, but there remained a crucial question. How would they evade detection by the mages? Flora's answer was as ingenious as it was audacious. Warriors, she explained, could manipulate the surrounding mana to obscure the traps, rendering them undetectable even to the keen senses of the mages. The realization dawned on Count Vanderberg, a glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Flora's proposal was nothing short of brilliant, offering a tangible path to victory in the face of overwhelming odds. But there was one final hurdle to overcome: finding a warrior bold enough to assume the mantle of the Grand Warrior, a beacon of hope in their darkest hour. As tension hung thick in the air, a voice broke through the silence. Roman Dimitry, a figure previously relegated to the periphery, stepped forward with unwavering resolve. "I will do it," he declared, his voice ringing with determination. In the face of impending conflict, Rodwell felt compelled to step up and participate in the Grand Warrior battle. Turning to his commander, he made his request known, his determination evident in his eyes. Count Vanderberg, recognizing the inevitability of Rodwell's involvement, affirmed his pivotal role in the forthcoming confrontation. Afterwards, outside the confines of the command center, Flora sought out Rodwell, her curiosity piqued by his unwavering eagerness to take on perilous tasks. She couldn't fathom why Rodwell, whose service time had long expired, continued to linger amidst the chaos of battle. To Flora, Rodwell appeared less a patriot and more a desperate soul clinging to life, unwilling to accept his own mortality. Despite her skepticism, Flora conceded the necessity of Rodwell's involvement, particularly considering his potential as a future leader within their ranks. Rodwell, however, confided in Flora a deeper motivation, his burning ambition to surpass the legacy of the Romans. This revelation caught Flora off guard. Initially resistant to change, Rodwell now aspired not only to emulate but to surpass the renowned Romans, a pursuit that fueled his continued service to Cairo. Flora, in turn, shared her own reasons for remaining in the fray, a desire to learn from past mistakes and prevent their recurrence in the future. Their conversation took on a somber tone as Flora implored Rodwell to emerge victorious at any cost, expressing a genuine hope for his survival. With their exchange concluded, they prepared themselves mentally for the impending battle, steeling their resolve for what lay ahead. The following day dawned with a palpable tension in the air as Rodwell stepped forward, his gaze unwavering as he issued a bold challenge to the Kronos Empire. Across the battlefield, his opponent, Oser, a formidable 3-star Aura swordsman, stood ready to accept the challenge. In that moment, Rodwell grappled with the stark reality of his situation. In Cairo, achieving a 3-star rank was considered prestigious, yet in the eyes of the Kronos Empire, even the lowest-ranking soldiers boasted 4-star prowess. It was a testament to the formidable nature of their adversary, a reminder of the daunting odds they faced. As the duel commenced, Oser surged forward with a fierce determination, his aura ablaze with intensity. In the midst of the intense battle, Rodwell found himself struggling to fend off his opponent's relentless assaults. As Kronos soldiers rallied behind Oser, their cheers echoing across the battlefield, Rodwell couldn't help but feel the gaping disparity between their worlds and his own in Cairo. Despite his valiant efforts, he couldn't bridge the chasm separating him from his brother. Yet, undeterred by the odds stacked against him, Rodwell remained resolute, determined to fight until the bitter end. As Oser launched a fierce attack, his aura blade aimed squarely at Rodwell's face. A surge of urgency pulsed through Rodwell's veins. Dodging meant conceding defeat, but failure to evade the strike risked losing his sight. In a split-second decision, Rodwell abandoned caution and charged headlong towards Oser, his sword poised to strike. With a swift and decisive maneuver, Rodwell overpowered his opponent, sending Oser crashing to the ground. As victory was declared, Rodwell stood triumphant, a victorious smile etched upon his face, despite the injuries sustained from Oser's final assault. As Rodwell returned to the camp, his heart pounded with anticipation, seeking confirmation from Flora about the success of their meticulously crafted plan. Flora's assurance washed over him like a soothing balm, relieving the tension that had gripped him since the onset of their daring strategy. The weight of uncertainty lifted from his shoulders, replaced by a glimmer of hope for their besieged city. Meanwhile, amidst the ranks of the Kronos forces, Count Fabius, a commanding figure with an aura of authority, issued swift directives to his soldiers. Their arsenal, including the ominous flare weapon and the formidable war mages, stood poised for action. Across the battlefield, the sight of these imposing assets sent a shiver down the spines of the Cairo defenders, reminding them of the daunting task that lay ahead. Sensing the impending confrontation, Count Vanderberg, a stalwart leader among the Cairo forces, turned to Flora for guidance. His inquiry regarding the timing of the magic trap detonation revealed his trust in Flora's strategic acumen. Flora's response was measured and insightful, emphasizing the importance of precision in triggering the traps. She highlighted the vulnerability of the Chronos mages at the peak of their spellcasting, underscoring the need for meticulous timing to ensure maximum impact. With Flora's expertise guiding their actions, Count Vanderberg nodded in understanding, entrusting her with the pivotal task of signaling the detonation. His confidence in Flora's judgment bolstered their resolve, strengthening their resolve to face the impending onslaught with unwavering determination. As the Chronos mages began their incantations, a tense silence descended upon the battlefield, broken only by the crackling energy of anticipation. Flora's signal rippled through the Cairo ranks like a ripple on a pond, prompting Count Vanderberg to issue the command for the magic traps to be unleashed. In an instant, the air was rent asunder by a deafening explosion, engulfing the Chronos mages in a maelstrom of arcane energy. As Fabius, the esteemed commander of Chronos, surveyed the battlefield, his expression twisted into one of surprise. He issued a resolute command to his soldiers, urging them to unleash their might upon the forces of Cairo. With audacity, Cairo dared to oppose the empire, and Fabius vowed that Chronos would demonstrate the true extent of its power. In a synchronized onslaught, the Chronos soldiers surged forward, their determination palpable as they charged towards the Cairo forces. Despite their relentless advance, the Cairo soldiers stood firm, steadfastly defending their city's walls. They repelled the Chronos soldiers, pushing them back with unwavering resolve. Amidst the chaos, a sudden intervention from Flora disrupted the fray. With precision, she loosed an arrow, felling one of the Chronos soldiers. Her voice rang out, rallying the Cairo soldiers to maintain their focus. She reminded them of their advantage, now that the Chronos forces had lost their magician. Amidst the chaos of battle, Flora's voice rose above the din, rallying the Cairo soldiers with unwavering resolve. Families huddled in fear within the confines of Cairo, their safety threatened by the relentless advance of the Chronos Empire. The battle raged on relentlessly, each passing moment bringing the besieged city closer to the brink of collapse. Chronos' forces, seemingly on the verge of breaching the fortified walls, began to falter under the weight of prolonged conflict. Then, on the third day, a glimmer of hope emerged on the horizon as the army led by Lord Roman Dimitry arrived at Cairo's western front. The sight of Roman's forces sent shockwaves through the ranks of the Chronos Empire, prompting a hasty retreat. Inside the war room, the commanders of the Cairo forces convened to assess the situation. Count Vanderberg marveled at the swiftness with which the rebellion had been quelled, expressing gratitude to Roman for his timely intervention. However, Roman cautioned that the war was far from over, urging the Cairo forces to remain vigilant. Count Vanderberg, puzzled by the need for further mobilization, questioned Roman's rationale. Roman, gesturing towards the map, pointed out the audacity of Chronos' intrusion into Cairo's territory. He emphasized that Cairo could no longer afford to passively endure Chronos' aggression and must instead adopt a proactive stance. With the king's authority backing him, Roman declared his intent to lead the charge against the retreating Chronos forces. He instructed the commanders to prepare the troops to pursue and drive back the invaders, signaling a shift in strategy that caught many by surprise. Among those taken aback was Rodwell, who struggled to reconcile the image of the man before him with his memories of Roman. Recollections flooded Rodwell's mind of a different Roman, one consumed by vice, detached from the honor of swordsmanship, and frequently embroiled in tavern brawls. In disbelief, Rodwell marveled at the profound transformation that had taken place within his elder brother in such a short span of time. Roman's voice and demeanor bore little resemblance to the wayward soul Rodwell once knew, yet there was no denying his identity. For Rodwell, who had dedicated his life to upholding the family name on the Western Front, Roman's sudden emergence overshadowed his own achievements, leaving him questioning the significance of his endeavors. Rodwell, once hailed as the future hope of the Dimitry family, found himself grappling with a sense of disillusionment. The weight of his past ambitions now felt like burdensome shackles, leaving him questioning the purpose of his ongoing struggle. As he reflected on his journey, doubts crept in, and he couldn't help but wonder if it had all been in vain. Baron Neil's voice cut through the somber atmosphere, questioning the tangible benefits of engaging in relentless conflict with the Chronos Empire. His inquiry struck a chord with Rodwell, echoing the doubts that had been festering within him. Flora, ever pragmatic, added her voice to the conversation, expressing concern for the soldiers who had endured the grueling schedule of the past few days. Her words painted a stark picture of the toll that continuous warfare had taken on their ranks, prompting her to caution against hasty decisions that could lead to further devastation. Count Vanderberg, known for his strategic insight, offered a perspective that sought to balance caution with necessity. He underscored the strategic importance of the Western Front, emphasizing that their mission was not simply to vanquish the Kronos forces but to safeguard the safety and security of Cairo. His words resonated with a sense of pragmatism, advocating for a measured approach that prioritized the long-term interests of their city. In contrast, Roman's presence brought a solemn gravity to the discussion. With a seriousness in his gaze, he challenged the group to consider the broader implications of their actions. He reminded them of the ongoing conflict between Kronos and the Southern Kingdom's alliance, suggesting that their enemies were currently unable to commit their full forces to the confrontation. Roman's words carried a weight of conviction, urging his comrades to rise to the occasion and confront the atrocities perpetrated by the Kronos Empire. The revelation of Roman's unwavering resolve left the gathered commanders reeling, prompting Count Vanderberg to seek guidance on their next steps. As the scene shifted to a few moments later, Flora found herself contemplating Roman's steadfast commitment to their cause. Despite his transformation from his reckless past, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at his unwavering determination. Her thoughts were interrupted by the unexpected sight of Roman and Rodwell standing together. Roman, ever perceptive, acknowledged Rodwell's recent injury sustained during the warrior battle. With genuine gratitude, he credited Rodwell with playing a pivotal role in dealing with the Kronos mages and ensuring the defense of the Western Front until his own arrival. His words carried a sincerity that resonated deeply with Rodwell, leaving him flustered by the sudden shift in their dynamic. Roman pondered the relationship between himself and Roman Dimitry, his brother. Despite forming new bonds in his current life, Roman felt compelled to approach Rodwell. With a sense of caution, Roman acknowledged that Rodwell might not yet be ready to welcome him back into his life. However, he imparted a solemn reminder to Rodwell, urging him to consider one crucial fact. If Rodwell chose to stand by Roman's side tomorrow, they would together unleash the full force of the Dimitry name upon those who dared to harm them. With a steely gaze, Roman conveyed the gravity of their shared plight. As retribution for the loss of Rodwell's eye, Roman vowed that the Kronos Empire would pay a heavy toll in lives. He emphasized the bond between them, urging Rodwell to remember their brotherhood despite the trials that lay ahead. The narrative unfolds in the Kronos camp, where Baron Charlton, a figure of the diplomatic corps, delivers a disheartening message to Count Fabius. The rebellion, led by Benedict, has crumbled entirely, and the arrival of the royal army at the Western Front prompts Baron Charlton to suggest that Count Fabius consider a strategic retreat. The news catches Count Fabius by surprise, leaving him incredulous at the speed of Benedict's failure. Count Fabius, although taken aback, stands firm. Fleeing is not an option for him, and he articulates that his honor and commitment to his troops prevent him from abandoning his post despite considerable losses. Baron Charlton, however, emphasizes the broader ramifications of their actions, highlighting the Empire's primary focus on the conflict with the Kingdom Alliance. He urges Count Fabius to carefully weigh the consequences of losing even a fraction of their forces, as it could impact the larger southern territories. Frustrated but ultimately conceding to Charlton's counsel, Count Fabius agrees with the proposal to order a retreat at the break of dawn. The scene transitions to the next day, where all Kronos forces are in the process of withdrawing. A soldier suggests leaving scouts behind to prepare for potential threats, but Count Fabius dismisses the idea, expressing confidence in facing any pursuing Cairo forces head-on. As the Kronos forces strategically withdraw, a sudden development occurs. A vigilant soldier spots an approaching enemy army from the rear. Count Fabius, displaying a sly smirk, is not surprised. Instead, he sees this as an opportunity for a strategic trap. Quickly, he orders his soldiers to turn and face the approaching enemy, eager to exploit the situation to crush the Cairo forces and potentially bring about the collapse of the Western Front. The tension mounts as both Cairo and Kronos forces clash in a fierce and unexpected battle. Meanwhile, the narrative shifts to the previous night at the Cairo Strategy camp. Leaders gather to discuss their expectations as they prepare for the anticipated retreat of the Kronos Empire's army. Their strategy was simple yet bold: divide and conquer. With the enemy stretched out in a long column, the Cairo forces devised a plan to split into two groups and launch simultaneous attacks on both the center and rear of the Kronos ranks. Roman, alongside Rodwell and Chris, would lead the assault on the center, while Duke Vanderberg, Baron Neil, and Flora would coordinate the attack on the rear. Despite the apparent riskiness of dividing their forces, especially with potential dangers lurking in the rear, the Cairo commanders remained undeterred. Roman reassured Baron Neil, explaining that once the center attack gained traction, reinforcements would be dispatched to bolster the rear assault. Their goal was clear: sow chaos among the Kronos ranks and secure a decisive victory for Cairo. Roman's unwavering confidence in their success resonated with his comrades as they prepared to execute their plan. As the scene shifted back to the battlefield, the Kronos vice commander rallied his troops, reminding them of their allegiance to the empire and urging them not to falter in the face of the Cairo onslaught. Empowered by his words, the Kronos soldiers regained their footing and began to push back against the Cairo forces. Count Vanderberg, observing the resilience of the Kronos troops, recognized the formidable nature of an empire accustomed to invasion. Concerned by the shifting momentum, Vanderberg rallied his own troops, encouraging them to stand firm and press on against the imperial soldiers. In the heart of the conflict, a stark dichotomy unfolded. While Vanderberg's forces struggled to maintain their ground, a one-sided massacre ensued in the center of the battlefield. Chris and his fellow Roman soldiers executed their attack with ruthless efficiency, swiftly overwhelming the Kronos forces. Witnessing the ferocity of their assault, Rodwell found himself in disbelief. The soldiers of the Dimitry lineage, once considered formidable but now transformed into seemingly unstoppable warriors, left Rodwell awestruck. As the battle raged on, Rodwell's thoughts drifted back to a pivotal moment shared with his brother Roman. Reflecting on the night when Roman had urged him to join their cause, promising to reveal the true strength of the Dimitry legacy, Rodwell struggled to comprehend the significance of his brother's words at the time. Rodwell's mind churned with newfound understanding as Roman outlined their next move. Roman directed Chris to split their forces, with Chris assuming command and leading a unit to the rear while Roman intercepted the approaching Kronos Empire forces from the side. Rodwell, taken aback by this sudden decision, grappled with the realization that Roman might be leaving him behind. As Chris departed with the second unit, Rodwell couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty lingering in his mind. Meanwhile, at the rear of the battlefield, the Cairo forces found themselves on the defensive, steadily being pushed back by the relentless advance of the Kronos troops. Flora, sensing the urgency of the situation, signaled to Count Vanderberg, prompting the Cairo soldiers to form a shield wall. The Kronos forces, caught off guard by this unexpected maneuver, attempted to breach the defensive line, but the Cairo soldiers held firm, leaving no openings for their adversaries. Just as the Kronos forces intensified their efforts to break through the shield wall, Chris arrived at the rear with the second unit, injecting a surge of hope into the embattled Cairo ranks. Count Vanderberg wasted no time, instructing the soldiers to break formation and launch a counterattack. Chris, rallying his unit, urged them to showcase the strength of the Dimitry legacy. With remarkable skill and coordination, Chris and his soldiers swiftly dispatched a significant number of Kronos troops. Observing the prowess of Roman's knights in action, Flora marveled at their effectiveness in turning the tide of battle with only a small contingent. From the ranks of the Kronos soldiers emerged a formidable adversary, a 3-star Aura Knight, determined to confront Chris. However, before the knight could even raise his sword, Chris unleashed his flash technique, swiftly incapacitating the opponent with a single, decisive strike.